Next thing to keep in mind, who on earth was Peleg? Genesis chapter 10, and I hate to say this about the Bible, so God, don't listen for just a minute, okay? But Genesis 10 is boring, okay? As you read through that chapter, it's got all these big names that nobody on earth can pronounce except Alexander Scorby, you know. So-and-so begot so-and-so, and he begat so-and-so, and he begat so-and-so. And you're reading through this long, boring chapter of everybody begotten everybody, and all of a sudden you come across verse 25. And it says, unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg. For in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. Well, now hold on a minute. Peleg is the only guy, it doesn't say anything about anybody else. Why does it say something about Peleg? It says in his days was the earth divided. And then it says his brother's name was Joktan. Nobody else gets their brother mentioned. Why would his brother be mentioned? Well, the word Joktan means shorten. Peleg means divided. Peleg was born about 100 years after the flood. Notice he only lived to be 239. His daddy and grandpa and great-grandpa lived into their 400s. What was different? What happened in the days of Peleg? Next thing you need to keep in mind, the pre-flood world had a canopy of water above and water under the crust of the earth. Okay? Now, I made a decision years ago as a new Christian. I was 16 when I got saved, and all the atheists in my city started coming after me, trying to get me converted, away from Christianity. And I had some real problems believing some of the things in the Bible. They were showing me supposed contradictions and all that. We'll cover more on that on video 7. But I had to make a decision as a 16-year-old new Christian. I said, Lord, I'm going to believe your book until somebody can prove it's wrong. Some of my friends decided they're going to doubt the Bible until it's proven right. I think that's a mistake. I think I made the right decision. I said, God, I'm going to believe you even for the things I don't understand. And he's proven himself on just about every one of them. There's a couple I still got questions about. There was an atheist one time came to the preacher and said, Preacher, I don't believe anything in the Bible. I only believe science. He said, Preacher, if you can prove one verse out of the Bible scientifically, I'll believe it. The preacher said, well, okay. He grabbed the atheist around the neck, grabbed his nose, and began twisting his nose. Pretty soon, of course, the blood is pouring down his face, and the atheist said, what on earth are you doing? He said, I'm proving the Bible. It says the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. I don't recommend you do that, unless you get a really hardcore atheist, then you might want to try that one. But I'm going to give you the Hovind theory. Now, this is supposed to be good teaching technique. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I told you. You get all that? We're going to go through it very quickly, 8 simple steps of what I think caused the flood and explain all these strange phenomena on the planet. Then we'll go into them in a little bit more detail, and then we'll close this down. Noah and the animals got safely into the ark. A 300-degree below zero ice meteor came flying toward the earth and broke up in space. As it was breaking up, some of the fragments got caught and became the rings around the planets. They made the craters on the moon, the craters on some of the planets, and what was left over came down and splattered on top of the North and South Pole. The super cold snow fell on the poles mostly, burying the mammoths standing up. The dump of ice on the North and South Pole cracked the crust of the earth, releasing the fountains of the deep. The spreading ice caused the ice age effects, the glacier effects that we see. It buried the mammoths, made the earth wobble around for a few thousand years. And it made the canopy collapse that used to protect the earth and opened up the fountains of the deep. During the first few months of the flood, the dead animals would settle out and dead plants and get buried. They would become coal if they're plants and oil if they're animals. And those are still found today in huge graveyards. Fossils found in graveyards, oil found in big pockets under the ground. During the last few months of the flood, the unstable plates of the earth would shift around. Some places lift up, other places sink down. That's going to form ocean basins and mountain ranges. And the runoff would cause incredible erosion, like Grand Canyon, in a couple of weeks. Over the next few hundred years, the ice caps would slowly melt back, retreating to their current size. The added water from the ice melt would raise the ocean level, creating what's called a continental shelf. It would also absorb carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, which allows more radiation to get in, which is going to shorten people's lifespans. And in the days of Peleg, it finally took effect. The earth still today shows the effects of this devastating flood. Now, a little more detail on each one. God told Noah, the Lord said to Noah, come thou Did you catch that? Listen very carefully. What did God tell Noah to do? He told him to come into the ark. He didn't say go into the ark. He said come into the ark. Where does God have to be in order to say that? In the ark. That'll preach, brother. There's a sermon right there, just right there. Come into the ark, Noah. Come with me. We're going on a little cruise. Come on in. I'm here with you. And when the flood was over, God said to Noah, go out of the ark. God was with him the whole time. That would be quite the cruise. And the Lord shut the door. By the way, good eternal security verse. If the Lord's got you saved, you're saved, okay? You can't get out of God's hand. Then this 300-degree below zero ice meteor came flying through the solar system. Some of it broke apart. It made craters on Mercury and craters on the moon. 4 of the planets today still have rings around them. And the rings around these planets are made of rock and ice. Very interesting. Now, Walt Brown thinks some of the craters on the moon were formed when the fountains of the deep broke open and rocks went flying up out of Earth's gravitational pull, drifted around for a while and clobbered into the moon. He may be right on that, I don't know. But it's interesting. He thinks the comets came from Earth, and water on Mars came from Earth when the fountains of the deep broke open. You could read about it for yourself if you'd like. The super cold snow would land mostly around the poles, because super cold ice is not only affected by the magnetic field, it's easily statically charged. How many have seen the Van de Graaff generator where they make your hair stand up? You know, we've got one of those at our science center at Dinosaur Adventureland. As this ice meteor came flying toward the Earth, it broke apart. Pieces would settle in around the poles mostly, causing the Earth to wobble for a few hundred years, or maybe even a few thousand years. The canopy of water overhead collapsed and it rained 40 days. The water underneath the bottom, under the crust, came shooting to the surface, and the water kept going up for 150 days. And everybody drowned. It probably took 6 or 8 months to kill everybody during that flood. We all get the idea, well, it rained and everybody died first day. No, it took a long time for people to die. People would be running and fighting for higher ground. As that got more and more rare, as the water keeps coming up and up and up, for 150 days, the water increased. By the way, they're still discovering chunks of ice flying around in space. Here's an article about a scientist who discovered chunks of ice as big as this auditorium are hitting the Earth all the time. They dissolve in space, but it rains down as water. There's water everywhere in space. Science and Technology article here. If you go to the North Pole, you'll be kind of chilly, and one of only 400 people that have ever been there. But up around the North Pole, there's an ocean called the Arctic Ocean. I went up to see the Arctic Ocean a couple years ago, and the guy said, hey, Brother Hovind, you know something interesting about this ocean? It has no tide. I said, man, I never thought of that. Taught her science for 15 years. Arctic Ocean has no tide. And who cares, right? Anyway, but there's an island up there called the New Siberian Islands off the coast of Russia. There on those New Siberian Islands, they find frozen bobcats, frozen lynx, frozen camels. What happened? When they drill down through the ice, when they get to the South Pole and drill through the ice, they find coal under the ice at the South Pole. I would like to point out, Your Honor, there are no trees in Antarctica. 0. Admiral Byrd went down there and said they saw frozen palm trees or palm leaves near the South Pole. Scientists have discovered all sorts of frozen leaves, even dinosaur fossils, plant-eating dinosaurs, near the South Pole. Thousands of well-preserved leaves found in Antarctica. Leaves on the side of a cliff 250 miles from the South Pole. And the leaves still retain their original cellular structure and organic content. They're not petrified. They're preserved. They find dinosaurs, plant-eating dinosaurs, in northern Alaska. There are no trees up there. I was there. Nothing. Not a blade of grass in most places. See, the Earth actually has 2 North Poles. We have a geographic North Pole where we spin around. We also have a magnetic North Pole in Canada where the compass actually points. Now here in Tennessee, it probably doesn't make a lick of difference. Your compass points north because both of them pretty much line up. But if you live in Alaska, your magnetic north is way different than the real north, and pilots have to learn to adjust for that. And who cares, right? Okay.